And it all has to do with ruining our society, ruining our culture, destroying the family. I'm not going to give you anything that's not utterly public. And the headline is Pope Francis invites religious political leaders to sign global pact for new humanism. Did you hear that, beloved? A new humanism. It's not a better humanism. It really is a new humanism, not the one that God gave. It is an attempt to simply control the population of the world. It will be destructive, it will be immoral, and that's what it attempts to do. Pope Francis has announced he is hosting an initiative for a global pact to create a new humanism. The global event to take place at the Vatican on May 14th, 2020, that's next year.
Hello and welcome, fellow digital soldiers, to True Reporting. It is the 2nd of January 2020, and on today's podcast we will be covering an article from Tiffany Fitzhenry. She's been on the podcast once before and she will be appearing again, but that date is disclosed as of right now. I will let you guys know when that time is coming up. But again, coming from TiffanyFitzhenry.com, we see this. Is this the last pope? 4 historic prophecies say yes. And we're seeing a lot of video of, remember earlier in the week, the Pope was slapping at that woman's hand and just showing himself, showing the true side of himself. And also much goes back with the Vatican. In the intro video, as you can see, the nun talking about who is really the Pope, right? It's very demonic, my friends, and we're going to get to the bottom of it here today. But before we do so, my friends, would you please welcome my sponsor, Noble Gold. Hey guys, Thomas from True Reporting here. Did you know that gold is up 18%? That's right. It's been like that since the month of June, and we all know why. It's because Trump is relentless against the Federal Reserve. We know that our money is not worth anything unless it's backed by gold. So why not back your 401k or IRA with gold and go to Noble Gold and tell them Thomas sent you from True Reporting. You call this number 1-877-646-5347 and tell them Thomas sent you, and it'll be worth your while. Thanks guys, and enjoy the podcast. Alright guys, it's good to have you aboard. Before we get into today's podcast, would you please go ahead and subscribe to my backup channel, True Reporting 2.0. I would greatly appreciate it. We just hit 10,000 subscribers, so thank you very much. Also guys, would you please go ahead and click the notification bell so when I post a video to this channel, you'll be the first to know. And finally guys, would you please go ahead and click the like button. The more likes that this video receives, the more times it's recommended to other viewers, thus more eyes on the truth. And with that being said, my friends, let's go ahead and hop into it. This is True Reporting. Again, is this the last pope? 4 historic prophecies say yes. There are 4 well-known prophecies which all predict that Pope Francis will be the final pope, that his fall is guaranteed, and with it will take down the Luciferian bloodline cabal, the Roman Empire, once and for all. And guys, what's taking place in America with Jeffrey and Prince Andrew, so on and so forth, and what really is coming to the forefront with a lot of politicians, congressmen, CEOs, so on and so forth, that is going to lead directly to the Vatican. I mean, we're already talking about Prince Andrew, for Christ's sakes, right? I mean, he is right there with the royal family. It's just one step further and we're there. It says here, from the beginning, I did not believe one word of his. He preaches mercy, but is in truth an ice-cold, sly Machiavellian, and what is worse, he lies. These are razor-sharp words of a cardinal within the walls of the Vatican, as recently reported by the German magazine Der Spiegel, one of the most influential political magazines in Europe. This is utterly unprecedented, guys. There can be no doubt now that we have entered a time unlike anything the world has ever seen before. As I chart what I've excitedly dubbed the elite apocalypse, I do my part to help tear down the dark prison pyramid and usher in the liberation of this planet from the evil controlled forces who've held it through child abuse. To quote Sinead O'Connor, many of you know I keep a very close and critical eye fixed on the Holy See, and for very good reason. The Roman papacy is by all prophetic accounts the main stronghold of the old controlled world, and its fall will usher in the new world. It's no secret that just like Sinead, I am no fan of the Vatican, and regularly take jabs at the man I decided to start calling, for reasons I can explain below, Francis the Last. It says here, many tweets from Tiffany, so he's not just a pedo pope, he's a you-know-what pedo pope. Good to know. This is from 2018. I'm standing over here in Ethiopia right now waiting for you to get here and feed those millions of starving humans for the next 5,000 years for the cost of a single piece of art from your collection. Still waiting. Hello? You know what, pedo pope. If the Lord has gifted you riches, it is in order to do lots of good things for others in his name. And that's from Pope Francis. Just hypocritical, right? The P-Pope update. 13 states are now following in Pennsylvania's footsteps and have opened full statewide investigations into sex abuse. The largest you-know-what ring on planet Earth, otherwise known as the Catholic Church, now faces its gravest threat in centuries. Yeah, I know I can be a little brutal, but look, the church has presided over the largest child abuse cult on earth, which has committed the most mass crimes against humanity in the history of civilization on this planet. And I happen to really love children, and humans for that matter. So that's a big problem for me. My snarky tweets are more than just justified considering the scale of pure evil we are talking about here. I also despise the hijacking of spirituality, me too, which we humans are naturally wired for. To centralize power, which is then wielded extemporaneously all over the planet, for the further centralization of even more power held by even fewer individuals in a closed elite system, all while hoarding the planet's wealth, secrets, and knowledge. Something about that just really grinds my gears. The elite who lie and subvert humanity are my mark, and I am poised to destroy them. I know in my bones that the closely guarded secrets of the Catholic Church will soon be revealed, and that this will torpedo the Roman ruling state as we know it. But what I didn't know until a few days ago was that there are 4 different very well-known prophecies which all predict that Pope Francis will be the final pope, that his fall is guaranteed, and with it will take down the Luciferian bloodline cabal, the Roman Empire, once and for all. Yes, guys, this is big. Get excited. We've all been meticulously, intentionally, and repetitiously taught that the Roman Empire fell. However, that didn't actually happen. Surprise! Yeah, we were lied to. Can you even believe it? Anyone else sensing a pattern? The truth is that the seat of power that was Rome never abdicated its throne. It merely changed forms. That's another subject for another post, just something you need to know going forward. Likewise, we've all been socialized to believe that the institutions which currently exist on our planet should all be there. And just because they've all been there doesn't mean that they always should be. I mean, says who, right? We've all been brainwashed to believe that these massive institutions cannot ever fall. Too big to fail. Trained us well on thought pattern, right? But this too is a grand hoax. Nothing and no one is too big to fall or fail, especially when they failed us. When they have forsaken their people and their purpose. Just ask Harvey Weinstein, whom I have it on very good authority is penniless at this very moment, and who will spend the rest of his life in a jail cell and die broken alone, as the vile monster should. We need to start to become very comfortable with the concept that the largest institutions on earth will and are falling right before our very eyes. We have entered a new era, ready or not. This is a time like nothing that has ever come before. It is an age of authenticity, where the truth about what these institutions actually are is all being pushed to the surface, and the Vatican is no exception. And again, guys, this was written 7 months ago. She's right on target. So what did all these prophecies and visions say? What will this all look like, and how is it going to end? I'm glad you asked. Let's start with Saint Malachi and his prophecy of the popes. Malachi was a 12th century Irish bishop who made a prophecy that there would be 112 popes, For your information, Francis is the 112th. He wrote short prophetic descriptions of who each of the 112 popes would be based on certain identifying factors such as name and birthplace. His prophecy was long ago officially approved by the Catholic Church and stored in the Vatican archives. In spite of that, the fact that it predicted the future destruction of Rome, it remained a closely guarded secret for centuries. Here is Malachi's prediction of the 112th Pope in full is here. In the final persecution of the Holy Roman Church, there will reign Peter the Roman, who will pasture his sheep in many tribulations. And when these things are finished, the city of 7 hills, i.e. Rome, will be destroyed, and the dreadful judge will judge his people, the end. All right, now, calm down. I know that sounds scary as heck, but remember, this is the elite apocalypse we're talking about. The end of their dark reign over our beautiful, sacred, divine world. The destruction of the good, moral, righteous humanity is not at hand. We haven't been the secret Luciferians deceiving humanity for centuries, brainwashing them on a mass scale, hoarding all the wealth and resources of the planet, and stealing and eating you know what, right? Remember, this is the judgment and the destruction of the wicked. This is the judgment and the expelling of evil and darkness. When you think about it, we've already been living in our own personal apocalyptic hellscape of darkness for a millennia. All right, back to Malachi. He prophesies the 110th Pope, Pope John Paul II, by saying, in quote, "From the labor of the sun, of the eclipse of the sun." Scholars confirm this prophecy by noting that the sun was in eclipse during the day and the very moment of Pope John Paul's birthday on May 18, 1920, as well as during his funeral on April 8, 2005. Yes, guys, this is very freaking weird. Okay, let's look at Malachi prophecy concerning the 111th Pope, Pope Benedict. The prophecy says of him, Glory Olivae, which means the glory of the olive. The order of Saint Benedict. The chosen name of Ratzinger is also known as the Olivetans. In choosing this patron, he was quite literally the glory of the olive personified. Well then, alrighty. Now then it seems this Malachi guy was indeed legit. Let's look at who he said would be the final pope, and it was Peter Romanus, or Peter the Roman, Pope Francis, aka Peter the Roman. Pope Francis, originally known as Jorge Mario Bergoglio, was given a birth name that is quite telling. Bergoglio is derived from the word Berg, which means mountain or large rock in German. Mario is derived from the Latin name Marius, which comes from Mars, the god of war. Jorge translates to George, who is most associated with Saint George, was a Roman soldier of Greek origin and a member of the Praetorian Guard for Roman Emperor Diocletian, who was venerated by the Crusaders. The prophecy points out that Peter Romanus is identified as the last pope. Like Bergoglio in Italian, Peter means rock in Greek, just as Romanius translates from Rome. Hence, Jorge Mario Bergoglio's own name points to the fact that he is the very last pope of Rome. Even his middle name, Mario, refers to a tendency to warmonger. Plus, the father of the current pope was Peter, or Pietro, and was from Italy even though the family moved from Argentina. France is Peter of Rome. Nostradamus, as we can see. He predicted that the last pope would flee Rome in December, when, in quote, 2 suns seemed to appear in the sky. Nostradamus said, in quote, "The great star for 7 days will burn a cloud, will make 2 suns appear. The big massive will howl all night when a great pope changes his territory." 2:41. Here's another interesting Nostradamus prediction regarding the destruction of Rome. Nostradamus Quatrain 10-65. O vast Rome, thy ruin approaches, not of thy walls, but of thy blood and substance. The bite of thine utterings will be such a horrible snip, the point of the blade thrust all the way to the handle. In quatrains number 10-65, Nostradamus predicted the ruin of Rome as the result of an inflammatory statement made by the Pope against the enemy of Rome that would result in a backlash and the ruin of Rome. The enemies of Rome are the people. Recently, the Pope was repeatedly called for silence in the wake of revelations that have taken decades to surface. This has inflamed the masses and prompted two-letter callings for his resignation. Nostradamus, however, tells us that Rome's building will not be destroyed, only its occupants and idols. Wow. Very interesting stuff, she says. I keep visioning the spoils of Rome being redistributed amongst the victims of the abuse. Let's all picture it and see what happens. So what did Edgar Cayce say? The sleeping prophet. Edgar Cayce says here, during the time of the Soviet Union, Edgar Cayce predicted that Russia would one day be an ally of the United States. This is what he said. For changes are coming, this may be sure. An evolution or revolution in the ideas of religious thought. The basis of it for the world will eventually come out of Russia. Not communism, no, but rather that which is the basis of the same as Christ taught. The prediction came true after the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991, which Cayce also predicted. Edgar Cayce predicted that there would be one final papal reign after John Paul II, that this reign would be short, and that there would be none further papal reigns after that. In other words, that Benedict would be the last pope to begin and end a reign, and there would be no further pope to complete a reign over or ever again. Yeah, pattern alert. Now, okay, let's talk about Fatima, the visions of Fatima. The three secrets of Fatima consist of a secret apocalyptic vision and prophecies which are supposedly given to three young Portuguese shepherds, Lucio Santos and her cousins Jacinta and Francisco Marto, experienced the apparition of Mary, starting on May 13, 1917. Of the three secrets, two were revealed at the time. The third and final one, kept in an envelope by the Vatican, was not made public until the mid-2000s. Sister Lucio chose not to disclose the secret in her memoir of August 1941. In 1943, Lucia fell seriously ill with influenza and pleurisy. Bishop Silva visiting her in 1943 and suggested that she write the third secret down to ensure that it would be recorded in the event of her death. Lucia was hesitant to do so. However, at the time she received the secret, she had heard Mary say not to reveal it. But because Carmelite, obedience requires that orders from superiors be regarding as coming directly from God. Oh my God, the manipulation. She was in quandary as to whose orders to precedence. Finally, in mid-October, Bishop Sylvia sent her a letter containing a direct order to record the secret, and Lucia obeyed. The third part of the secret was written down on January 3rd, 1944. In June 1944, the sealed envelope containing the third secret was delivered to Silva, where it stayed until 1957, when it was finally delivered to Rome. It was announced by Cardinal Angelo Sodano on May 13, 2000, 83 years after the first apparition of the lady to the children, that the third secret would finally be released. In his announcement, Cardinal Sodano applied that secret was about the 20th century persecution of the Christians that culminated in the failed Pope John Paul II assassination attempt on May 13, 1981, the 64th anniversary of the first apparition of the Lady at Fatima. The text of the third secret, according to the Vatican now, was published on June 26, 2000. The third part of the secret revealed at the Cova dell'Iria Fatima on 13th July 1917. I write in obedience to you, my God, who command me to do so through His Excellence, the Bishop of Leiria, and through your most holy mother and mine. After the two parts which I have already explained, at the left of Our Lady and a little above, we saw an angel with a flaming sword in his left hand. Flashing, it gave out flames that looked as though they would set the world on fire. But they died out in contact with the splendor that Our Lady radiated towards him from her right hand. Pointing to the earth with his right hand, the angel cried out in a loud voice, "Penance, penance, penance." And we saw an immense light, that is God. Something similar to how people appear in a mirror when they pass in front of it. A bishop dressed in white. We had the impression that it was the Holy Father. Other bishops, priests, men and women religious going up a steep mountain, at the top of which there was a big cross of rough, hewn trunks as a cork tree with the bark. Before reaching there, the Holy Father passed through a big city half in ruins and half trembling with halting step. Afflicted with pain and sorrow, he prayed for the souls of the corpses he met on his way. Having reached the top of the mountain, on his knees at the foot of the big cross, he was killed by a group of soldiers who fired bullets and arrows at him. And in the same way, there died, one after another, the other bishops, priests, men and women religious, and various lay people of different ranks and positions. Beneath the two arms of the cross, there were two angels, each with a crystal appersorium in his hand, in which they gathered up the blood of the martyrs, and with it sprinkled the souls that were making their way to God. She says here, along with the text of the secret, Cardinal Joseph Ratzinger, the future Pope Benedict, published a theological commentary in which he states, in quote, "A careful reading of the text of the so-called third secret of Fatima will probably prove disappointing or surprising after all the speculation it has stirred. No great mystery is revealed, nor is the future unveiled. However, critics such as an Italian journalist and the media personality Antonio Socchi claim that the 4-page handwritten text of the third secret, released by the Vatican in 2000, is not the real secret, or at least not the full secret. The argument is based on the following. Written on one sheet of paper, the text of the third secret released by the Vatican is handwritten on 4 sheets of paper. Father Joaquin Alonso, official Fatima archivist for 16 years, reports in his book that, in quote, Lucy tells us that she wrote it on a sheet of paper. In a taped interview, Charles Fiore quoted Malachi Martin as saying the following regarding the text of the third secret, in quote, I cooled my heels in the corridor outside of the Holy Father's apartments while my boss, Cardinal Bay, was inside debating with the Holy Father and with a group of other bishops and priests and 2 young Portuguese seminarians who translated the letter, a single page, written in Portuguese, for all those in the room. Written in the form of a letter, another reason why the critics argue the full third secret has not been released is because of indications that the third secret was written in the form of a signed letter to the Bishop of Leiria, and the text of the third secret released by the Vatican is not in the form of a letter. Lucia was interviewed by Father Jungen on February 3rd, 1946, when I'm not sure what that means, Jungen asked Lucia when the time would arrive for the third secret. Lucia responded, in quote, I communicated the third part of the letter to the Bishop of Leiria. Also, Canon Galamba, and an advisor to the Bishop of Leiria, is quoted as saying, when the bishop refused to open the letter, Lucy made him promise that it would definitely be open and read to the world either at her death or in 1960, whichever came first. Contains words attributed to the Blessed Virgin Mary. The text of the third secret released by the Vatican contains no words attributed to the Blessed Virgin Mary. Socchi asserted that the third secret likely begins with the words, in quote, in Portugal, the dogma of the faith will always be perceived, etc. Words with Lucia included in her 4th memoir, but which are included only as a footnote to the text released by the Vatican. They hide everything from us, guys, or either this was hidden from the Vatican. Contains information about the apocalypse, the apostasy, satanic infiltration of the church. Wow, and what does this remind me of, guys? That movie I told you about, Haxan, satanic infiltration of the church, and that was in 1922. In an interview published in the November 11, 1984 edition of Jesus Magazine, Cardinal Ratzinger was asked whether he had read the text of the third secret and why it had not been revealed. Ratzinger acknowledged that he had read the third secret and stated in part that the third secret involves the, in quote, importance of the novissimi, or end time, and dangers threatening the faith and the life of Christian and therefore the life of the world. Ratzinger also commented that if it is not made public, at least for the time being, it is in order to prevent religious prophecy from being mistaken for a quest for the sensational. Also, a news article quoted former Philippine ambassador to the Vatican, Howard D., as saying that Cardinal Ratzinger had personally confirmed to him that the message of Our Lady of Atka and Fatima are essentially the same. Akita prophecy, in part, contains the following. The work of the devil will infiltrate even into the church in such a way that one will see cardinals opposing cardinals, bishops against bishops, churches and altars sacked. On May 13, 2000, Cardinal Sodano announced that the third secret would be released, during which he implied the secret was about the persecution of Christians in the 20th century that culminated in the failed assassination attempt on John Paul II on May 13, 1981. In a syndicated radio broadcast, Malachi Martin stated that the third secret, and quote, doesn't make any sense unless we accept that there will be or there is in progress a wholesale apostasy amongst clerics and laity in the Catholic Church. And that is what's happening. All of this stuff that's taking place, the evilness is being shown to us very, very quickly, and it's going to lead back. I'm telling you, Jeffrey's doings are going to lead back. His evidence is going to lead all the way back to the Vatican. And I've been saying this. Final bonus sign, guys. If for some bizarre reason you're still in need of further convincing that the you-know-what pedo pope, Francis the Last, aka Peter the Roman, will soon preside over the collapse of the Vatican State and the unholy Roman Empire once and for all, here's one last thing to consider. Just hours after Pope Benedict's shocking resignation, lightning struck the Vatican, hitting the top of St. Peter's Basilica, not once, but twice. So, what is my take on all this, she says? Well, if you've studied theology, you know that Jesus had a brother named James. Many scholars believe that James was the first leader of the church. I believe James knew what Jesus truly came to teach, messages of love, liberation, and the truth about the powers of our humanity. What Jesus came to teach us was powerful, but it was powerful to the individual and to the collective, empowering them in their direct connection within the divine source of all life, and counterintuitive to the entire conception of institutions. So, in quote, Jesus as we know him, and in particular, what was supposed to be the entirety of his message, was hijacked by the unholy power-hungry Romans who stoned James to death and installed Peter as the first pope. I believe Francis, i.e. Peter of the Rome, will be the final pope. That Rome's rule of darkness will have been from the first Peter to the last, and his fall will usher in the destruction of the Roman Empire, cabal, Luciferian-controlled matrix, pedo darkness, once and for all. The end, which will actually be the beginning. And my friends, this was so well put together. Please, everyone, please follow Tiffany Fitzhenry on Twitter. I believe it's Tiff_Fitzhenry. Please do that right now. I will post her Twitter link in the description box below. Again, she will be on the podcast. We are still working on a date, but it is for sure going to happen. She soon has told me that she's going to be dropping some very big news. So let's just get ready for that. She's a great investigative journalist. My friends, if you found this informative and you enjoyed it, please subscribe to my channel. You can follow me on Twitter at TRUreporting. We just hit over 20,000 followers, so thank you. And you can also please leave a like on this video. I greatly appreciate it. Guys, you can donate to this channel by going to my PayPal, Patreon. We have a P.O. Box and TRUreporting merch. The Patreon is completely revamped, so please check out those tiers. There's a lot coming back to you. Guys, please be loving and kind to one another. Know God is in control. And just have faith, my friends. Everything will work out. I hope you have a wonderful evening, and I will talk to you very soon. Bye-bye.